Hi, this is Scott Dudley from Funnel Fella Radio, and today we're up to episode number 43, and I'm going to be continuing on with this little mini-series that I'm doing at the moment about Eugene Schwartz's work. So I realized that in the previous episode I didn't really introduce Eugene Schwartz properly, and some of you will be familiar with his work and you'll know exactly who he is, and then other people will have never heard of him. So for those people, just briefly, Eugene Schwartz was one of the best, if not the best, copywriters of the 20th century. A lot of the top marketing agencies hired him to write the promotions simply because his work made a lot of sales. So he was in high demand, and he also wrote a legendary book called Breakthrough Advertising, which many regard as the best marketing book of all time, or copywriting book. So yeah, highly recommended. And I purchased that book from Brian Kurtz. It's very hard to come across, actually. It's not the average book that you can just purchase from Amazon. And seeing as I'm actually interviewing Brian Kurtz next week as a special guest, that's sort of the purpose of this mini series that I'm doing. So anyway, if we get straight into the content, we're going to be talking about the importance of mass desire, or what could also be classified as demand. So the most important thing to realize about this is that copy on its own cannot actually create desire for a product, simply because the mass desire, it must already be there. And as Eugene Schwartz said, you cannot create it and you cannot fight it. Okay, so with that in mind, though, you can and must direct it, channel it, and focus it onto your particular product or service. So basically the point here is that outstanding sales copy won't be able to sell a product or service that is not wanted by the marketplace. And just to add a bit of comedy into this, there's an old saying that while it's a little bit crude, it's very true, and that's that brilliant copywriting won't sell a turd. Okay, so I mean, if people don't want something, then you're going to struggle to sell it, aren't you? So with that in mind, here are a couple of examples. The first one actually comes from the book. So way back in 1954, the long and powerful cars were becoming trendy and extremely popular. And companies such as, or cars such as the Hudson Hornet, also the twin exhaust Cadillac, and also the Chrysler 300 exploited this trend perfectly. And they made a lot of money from it. But on the other hand, Henry Ford and Ford Motor Company decided that they wanted to focus on safety instead. But unfortunately, they paid the price because that safety wasn't something that people actually wanted back then. And Ford soon realized their mistake, and their response was to produce the highest horsepower engines in their history. So when they finally came to their senses, they thought, oh, okay, these guys over here are doing the right thing. We completely got it wrong. So if this is what people want, then let's go with that 100%. And obviously it worked out well for them. And then another more recent example would be Microsoft's attempt at releasing a smartphone. And I mean, I'll be honest, I'm not a fan of Microsoft myself. I prefer Apple and Mac. But you know, it doesn't really surprise me that people wouldn't want a Windows phone or a Microsoft phone. But that said, the main failure was Windows itself, because it had an operating system designed for a big screen, but they tried to cram it into a little screen product. So basically Windows Mobile was crippled because it was too tightly connected to its own operating system. So eventually they realized that they made the wrong move, and then they completely took it off the market and wrote it off and forgot about it as a mistake. So, you know, two excellent examples there where there's no mass desire, people didn't want it. So eventually, you know, Ford and Microsoft realized that it was a waste of time, and they ended the experiment. So to sort of take that into the funnel world, it's a similar story as well, as I see quite a few people who launch funnels and then they're hoping and praying that their offer and their product or service will end up selling like hotcakes. But as Russell Brunson says, if a funnel's not working, then it's almost always one of three things: either the hook, the story, or the offer. Or it could also just be a case of picking a bad market that is not irrationally passionate about what you're selling. So how can you tell if your market has a mass desire and is irrationally passionate? That's sort of the burning question, isn't it? And well, if you're selling information products, which is what I personally recommend myself, it helps a lot if there are already established experts already thriving and selling information products in your market. So, you know, you just look for other examples of other people that are successfully selling products, and that basically proves that what you're trying to sell is already a proven concept, okay? You can also use awesome tools like SimilarWeb, where you can go in and you can see how much traffic a particular page is receiving. You can see where they're getting their traffic from. You can even filter it right down to the specific URLs to see where the majority of their traffic is coming from. There's lots of other awesome metrics that you can look for there as well to actually prove the concept. Another excellent idea is to take a good look at Google Trends, because with Google Trends, you can actually compare not just one thing, but you can compare multiple things against each other to see which one you know, is performing or is getting the most searches, which one is the most popular at the moment compared to in the past. And it actually shows you on the graph, you can see the chart of, you know, which one was more popular back 5 years ago, which one was more popular 2 years ago, and then which one is more popular now. And just to see the actual trends of some of these keywords is fascinating. So another thing that you can also do is you can browse the exact ads that a company is placing on Facebook. Now, this was really cool, and I think this was inspired by, there was some software tools that were released that actually allowed you to basically find all of the ads that certain companies were placing. And I actually purchased one of these software programs. This was about 4 years ago. But Facebook must have realized this, and they didn't like it. So basically all of those tools were banned, and instead of that, Facebook added a page on all of the, a tab on all of the Facebook pages where you could actually see the ads that this particular company or person is placing. So it's very easy just to go to search for a company or a person on Facebook. You go to their page, and then I'm not sure of the exact wording of the tab, but it's something like ads or advertisements or something. You click on that, and then you can see all of the ads that that particular company or person has placed. So that's a fantastic way to actually see, you know, what these experts and what these people that know what they're doing, how they're actually placing ads. So that's highly recommended as well. And obviously you can also funnel hack other people who you know are killing it and model the strategies that they're using. Okay, so they're just a few sort of suggestions to actually do some validation and some research to see if the idea of what you're trying to sell is even worth starting in the first place. Because, you know, you could spend 15, 20, 30 hours putting together a funnel which you think is awesome, and then realize further down the track that nobody wants what you're selling. And that's because you didn't do your research in the first place. So the main takeaway here is to validate the idea or the product that you're wanting to sell first. And then once you know that people want it, then you create the funnel. And then, you know, you get all the effort to put it all together. But you have to know before you even start the project that it's worthwhile doing. Otherwise, there's a fair chance that you're just wasting your time. And obviously, I don't want you to be doing that. So that's pretty much all I've got for today. Just one last thing. I've actually got back into Twitter over the last few days. It's sort of been a bit of an interesting experience because I haven't even looked at Twitter for about 4 or 5 years. And I think I was using it the wrong way previously. I just used to follow everybody. You know, I would follow them and they would follow me, and I'd have all of these I'd be following all of these people that I've got absolutely no interest in whatsoever. So you'd go through the feed and I just wasn't getting any value from it. So I gave up on it. But then I've got back into it this week, where now I've basically culled off all of the people that I'm not really interested in following. I've got it down to a short list, and now I'm really enjoying actually going onto Twitter and having a good look at all the different tweets. And it's also sort of inspired me from that experience to start, doing my own tweets and starting to become active on Twitter. So if you'd like to know a little bit more about me and also find out some more information about funnels, then you can follow me on Twitter at Scott Dudley. So it's not sort of rocket science to find me on there. It's just my name, Scott Dudley, without any spaces. You can follow me on there if you like. And yeah, that would be great. So that's pretty much all I've got for today. I'll catch up with you on the next episode of Funnel Fella Radio. Bye for now.